Imagine living two lives. In one, you are a 19-year-old star, a health sciences student at a top university by day, and a rising model and actress by night. You have the world at your feet, a family that adores you, and a future so bright it's almost blinding. But in your second life, you are a prisoner, not behind bars, but behind a screen. Your phone vibrates every 90 seconds. Where are you? Who are you with? Why didn't you pick up? On September 28, 2011, at 1:10 a.m., these two lives collided in a cold concrete parking garage in Surrey, British Columbia. 7 sharp bangs shattered the silence of the Simon Fraser University campus. It wasn't a robbery. It wasn't a random act of violence. It was the final, violent conclusion to a 40-day campaign of psychological terror. What the police found on the 3rd floor of that garage wasn't just a crime scene. It was a message of, if I can't have you, no one can. But as the killer sped away in a white Dodge Charger, he thought he had committed the perfect crime. He knew the security camera's blind spots. He had an alibi. He had a clean car. Or so he thought. He didn't realize that a single microscopic piece of brass, hidden in a place no car wash could ever reach, was about to scream his name from the shadows. Welcome to True Gruesome Crime Stories. Today we are diving deep into a case that redefined how Canada views stalking and domestic obsession, the heartbreaking story of Maple Batalia. This isn't just a story about a murder, it's a masterclass in forensic persistence and a terrifying look into the mind of a rejected lover who turned into a predator. We're going to look at the digital trail of 2,000 messages, the shadow network of friends who helped a killer track his victim, and the incredible 14-month investigation that nearly went cold until a technician looked under the hood of a rental car. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this case changed the law, and you'll see the exact moment a killer's arrogance became his undoing. Stay with us, because the details of how this perfect alibi crumbled are something you have to see to believe. The night of September 27th started like any other for a dedicated student. Maple Batalia was in the Simon Fraser University library, tucked away in a corner with her textbooks. She was studying for her medical school entrance exams. To Maple, those books represented her ticket to a life of service, a life far away from the drama of her past. But outside, in the darkness of the parking lot, a white Dodge Charger was circling. It wasn't looking for a spot. It was waiting. At 1 a.m., Maple packed her bags. She said goodbye to her friends, a brief, casual wave that would be their last memory of her. She walked alone toward the elevator. The sound of her footsteps echoed on the concrete of level 3. She reached for her keys. Then, the Charger moved. Residents living across from the SFU campus reported hearing what sounded like firecrackers, but anyone who knows the sound of a 9mm knows better. 7 shots. When the first patrol units arrived, they found Maple lying next to her car. She was still alive, but barely. The scene was gruesome. This wasn't just a shooting. The attacker had used a knife as well, a level of overkill that investigators immediately recognized as a sign of deep personal hatred. But here is the first twist. SFU is a high-security campus. There were cameras everywhere. Detectives rushed to the surveillance room, certain they would have the killer's face on tape. They scrolled to the 1:10 a.m. mark. They saw the 3rd-floor camera. And then they saw the problem. The camera was a panning model. It rotated on a timer. At the exact second the first shot was fired, the lens had rotated 180 degrees away from Maple's car. It was staring at an empty wall. The killer hadn't just been lucky. He had timed the rotation. He knew the rhythm of the machine. While Maple was being rushed to the hospital, where she would tragically pass away, detectives picked up her cell phone. It was sitting on the asphalt, untouched. When they cracked the phone, the screen was a graveyard of notifications. In the 40 days leading up to her death, one man had contacted her over 2,000 times. That's an average of 50 times a day, every single day. The messages weren't, "I love you" or "I miss you." They were, "Where are you? Who is that guy in your photo? Pick up or else." The name on the screen was Gary Dhaliwal. He was her high school sweetheart. But to Gary, sweetheart meant property. To understand why Gary Dhaliwal was in that garage, we have to look back at the perfect couple. Maple and Gary had been together for 4 years. On the outside, they were the pride of the Punjabi community in Surrey. But behind closed doors, Gary was a ghost. He didn't like her modeling. He didn't like her acting. He didn't like the fact that she was smarter than him. When Maple finally found out Gary had been cheating on her, she did something Gary never expected. She left. She didn't just leave, she vanished from his life.
She blocked him. She changed her routine. But Gary didn't believe in over. To him, Maple was a prize he had lost, and he was going to win it back, or destroy it so no one else could have it. This is where the story gets truly chilling. After Maple blocked Gary, he realized he couldn't track her himself because of a court-ordered restraining order. So he did something incredibly manipulative. He recruited flying monkeys. He used mutual friends telling him he was worried about Maple, or that he just wanted to give her her things back. These friends, some knowingly, some out of misplaced loyalty, became Gary's eyes and ears. They would text Gary when they saw Maple at the library. They would tell him what she was wearing. One of these friends was a man named Simon Beatty. Keep that name in mind, because Beatty wasn't just a messenger. He was the getaway driver. Within 24 hours of the murder, police were at Gary's door. He was the obvious suspect. But Gary was calm. He had a smile on his face. "I was home," he said. "Check my car, it's right there." Police checked his car. It was dark, it was clean, and the engine was cold. He had an alibi. He had been seen at a local gym and then went home. For months, the case stalled. Gary walked the streets of Surrey as a free man, while Maple's parents, Devinder and Sarbjeet, had to walk past the cemetery every day. But the Integrated Homicide Investigation Team, IHIT, didn't give up. They went back to the witness statement, a white Dodge Charger. They started checking every rental agency in British Columbia. Not for Gary's name. He was too smart for that. They were looking for anyone connected to him. 14 months later, they found a hit. A rental agency in Surrey had a record of a white Dodge Charger rented on September 25th, 3 days before the murder. The name on the lease? Simon Beatty, Gary's best friend. The car had been returned just hours after Maple died, and the rental agent remembered something strange. When the car was returned, it didn't just look clean. It looked surgical. The interior had been detailed. Every inch of the carpet had been shampooed. The exterior had been waxed. It was too clean. It was a red flag. Forensics took the car to a specialized lab. They tore the seats out. They used luminol. Nothing. The cleaning job had been professional. Then a technician decided to do something unconventional. He popped the hood. He wasn't looking at the engine. He was looking at the cowl, the small space between the hood and the windshield where leaves and debris usually collect. There, wedged in a tiny metal lip near the engine block, was a single spent 9mm shell casing. When a semi-automatic handgun fires, it ejects the casing to the right. Investigators realized that Gary must have been leaning out of the passenger window when he fired the first shot. The casing had hit the frame of the car and bounced into the engine compartment through the gap in the hood. It had been sitting there for over a year, surviving car washes, rain, and thousands of miles of driving. It was the DNA of the crime. With the casing in hand, police matched it to the bullets found in Maple's body. They now had a physical link between the rental car, Simon Beatty, and the murder. But they still needed Gary. They went back to the 2000 messages. They realized that the friends who had been spying for Gary had been communicating with them on a burner phone. They tracked the towers. On the night of the murder, the burner phone was pinging off the tower exactly 200 meters from the SFU parking garage. The perfect crime was unraveling. In 2016, Gary Dhaliwal finally sat in a courtroom, facing a mountain of forensic evidence, the shell casing, the phone pings, and testimony from friends who turned on him. He pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 21 years. But the community was outraged by Simon Beatty's sentence, for being the eyes and ears, for renting the car, and for helping clean the blood of a 19-year-old girl off the seats. He received only 18 months. To the Batalia family, it felt like a slap in the face. Their daughter was gone forever, and the man who drove the Killefur was going to be out in less than 2 years. Today, if you visit the SFU campus, there is a memorial for Maple. There is a scholarship in her name for students who, like her, want to heal the world. But her real legacy is in the law. Her case changed how police in Canada view stalking. It's no longer seen as a lover spat. The 2000 messages are now used as a textbook example of high-risk domestic stalking. Maple didn't get to become a doctor. She didn't get to win an Oscar. But she did become a beacon of light that exposed the darkness of obsessive control. Trust your gut. If a relationship feels like a cage, it is. The transition from jealousy to violence is often faster than we think. Digital footprints never die. Even a deleted text or a clean car leaves a trail. Justice might take 14 months, but the truth is patient. The danger of flying monkeys. Be careful who you share your location with. Sometimes the people we trust are being manipulated by the people we fear. Maple Batalia was a girl who wanted to save lives. In a cruel twist of fate, her death ended up saving others by highlighting the gaps in our protection of stalking victims. Gary Dollywall thought he was powerful because he had a gun and a plan, but he was weak. He couldn't handle a woman who didn't need him. As we close this chapter of true gruesome crime stories, let's remember Maple not as a victim in a parking garage, but as the girl who was too bright for a man who lived in the shadows. If you are currently feeling watched, harassed, or pressured by an ex-partner, please reach out to local authorities or a domestic violence hotline. Don't wait for the 2001st message. If this story moved you, please hit the like button. It helps us continue to bring justice to these stories. What do you think about Gursimir Bedi's 18-month sentence? Was it a fair punishment for an accomplice? Or did the system fail Maple? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to True Gruesome Crime Stories for more deep dives into the cases that changed history. Until next time, stay safe and stay vigilant.